Okie dokie, this is gonna just be as quick of a video as I can make it, where I'm gonna show my picture and I'm gonna talk about what I display in my picture. And the picture is a description of how I suggest these alien UFOs might be moving around inside of our atmosphere without producing any thrust. Okay. So first, I would like to show what I was looking at here before I decided to make my little video. Here's Anthony Brian Logan here, and he's talking about this YouTuber, or anyway, live streamer, who gets on the horn and says that she hates the police, and then she ran one over. And here's this girl right here, and here's who she killed on purpose. So she got onto the live stream and she said that she hates the police, and then she ran one over on purpose. So isn't that crazy? Totally unrelated to aliens taking over the world. Okay, so basically my suggestion is that these are not aliens. These are just gyroscopes. And so here we have lopsided gyros, uneven weight gyros. And so the way to understand an uneven weight gyro is like the vibrator in your phone is only one. It's a motor in a lopsided weight, and where all of the weight is on one side of the motor. When that weight spins, then it causes the mounting mass, maybe the motor, to always want to move in an equal and opposite direction to the acceleration of the mass. So as the motor weight moves over to here, then the mass wants to move this direction. And then as the motor weight moves back over this way, now it's moving in this direction, and so the mass wants to move in the opposite direction. Now, if you have two of these lopsided weights rotating in opposite directions and synchronized, then the uneven weight gyros are able to cancel vibration. Now this pair will only cancel vibration along this plane. It will still vibrate up and down as both of these weights move to the bottom and then to the top. So that's why an array of synchronized pairs working opposite of each other would allow for the stabilization of both dimensions of vibration. So obviously there's 3 dimensions, but if this mass is only rotating in 2 dimensions, then there's really only 2 dimensions of vibration to consider with this system. So by having a pair of these pairs, so by having 2 pairs that are all synchronized together, now there would be no vibration as this one rotates around and this one rotates around. It'll cancel this vibration, and then as these are opposite of these up here, as these rotate around, this will be moving up while this is moving down. So then this pair here will cancel the vibration that would be produced normally in this direction. So now we have 2 dimensions of vibration that are canceled by an uneven weight gyro. Okay, so now if you have only 2 here, now this vibration first is moving in this one direction. So if you change the speed of the rotation while the weights travel in one direction, so if it's traveling at a constant rotation here, and then only while these weights are moving down it starts to spin faster, then the system that these gyros are mounted to should want to move in the opposite direction that these weights are accelerated. So the whole time it'll want to go up and down here, but if it speeds up right here only while these weights are moving in one direction, then the system should want to move in the opposite direction as a result. So here, as long as the change in acceleration, as you can see here, these are going to move down and this is going to move up, is matched by the opposing and synchronized pair in the same rotation. Now first these move down, now as these weights are now moving around to the opposite side of their same rotation, the pairs will be able to remain synchronized and stabilized. So first this one produces this upwards rotation, but now this system is going to be moving faster than this system. And so now there won't be any vibrational stability here. It'll start to vibrate. So as long as during the other half of the rotation, this other pair accelerates to match the speed of the first pair that accelerated, which will also produce an acceleration force on the system in the same direction as the first change in acceleration did, then they will all remain synchronized, although there will be a slight delay where this one will first accelerate and then this one will then accelerate. The total RPMs will remain synchronized. So then if the gyro system becomes saturated, then the stabilization gyros, which are gyros that just spin in order to make sure that everything stays level, can actually rotate the system to face the opposite direction. So now these gyros would be saturated, but instead of accelerating to produce this change in acceleration of the mass, they could then decelerate. So now instead of moving this way, the weight would be moving this way, right? But then it would slow down. And if it slowed down, then it would still want to result in an equal and opposite change in acceleration on the system. So at first they would be accelerating. So if this, assume that this is a UFO that's floating in the air, and then these weights push down, and then it causes the UFO to move up or against gravity, and they keep speeding up and speeding up and speeding up. Then if the whole system turns upside down, so that now they are going to be actually traveling in the opposite direction, if it dramatically slows down, that should still result in a force that works against gravity, although it should not be as dramatic, because gravity is still going to be working, and it would be more efficient to try to accelerate the weight against gravity than it would be to try to decelerate it to result in an upward velocity. But I still think that it would work where if you manage to slow it down fast enough, then the slowing down was always occurring in this band where it would be producing an equal and opposite change in velocity on the system, then you would still end up with an upward thrust, an upward acceleration away from gravity. And so then the amount of time that they need to spin up would be different than the amount of time that they needed to spin down. So the total system, if there was an array of this array, might still have a limited time before it needed to land and discharge all of its gyros that are saturated. And so a saturated gyro is when it just can't spin any faster. It's reached its physical limit. The system just simply cannot go any faster. They max out at however many thousand RPMs, and then no matter what you do, it's just not going to increase speed. It'll melt first. The physical limitations of the materials are what determines how fast these gyros can spin before they become saturated. So this is my little picture of how I'm pretty sure that I think these UFOs are flying around. All right, thank you very much.